Mic'd Up with Jake and Fulton coming to you on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Lots to discuss on this Wednesday. Did not expect to have some news coming from KU and the basketball side of things. We'll also get to some trade deadline reactions right as the show ended last night. 2 trades occurred, one by the Bills, one by the Chiefs. We will get to that and winners and losers of the trade deadline. We'll talk plenty about the Chiefs offense. We will get to a little K-State and Washburn hoops. KU, of course. Bill Self, as you made it, you heard at the top of the hour of the news, suspended 4 games for, I guess you could say, 2017 issues in the 2018 calendar year, but they are self-imposed. We will get to all of that. We're going to hear from head coach Andy Reid. We're going to hear from Patrick Mahomes. We'll talk with Kellis Robinette. We've got so much to get to on this Wednesday edition of Mic'd Up. Fulton Caster back with us today after he was off yesterday. We will get to so much today. As always, hit us up on our Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. Outside of Topeka, 785-272-9429. We are live on the interwebs right now. If you want to, you can check us out on social media at Sports on 580 on YouTube, as well as our Twitter account, Sports on 580. That's Sports on 580, as we will be video streaming our show. If you are sitting at your desk and don't have a radio, want to be able to pause and start and do that, you can go to our YouTube page, Sports on 580. Just Google Sports on 580 YouTube. Really simple, really easy. Another way that you can join in. We'll have the comment section up if you want to make a comment via the interwebs, as well as the Big O Tires text line. Feel free to drop us a comment on our YouTube page and our live stream here for Mic'd Up. Let's start, though, with trade deadline reaction, as yesterday was a bonkers day, but at 2:58, I got off the air, and then all of a sudden the Chiefs made a move and the Buffalo Bills made a move. The Chiefs trading Rashad Fenton for a conditional 7th. Who knows what that draft pick is going to be. My guess is it's all depending upon how much Rashad Fenton plays for the Falcons the rest of this year.
That happens. That usually is the big determining factor in conditionals. So I have to imagine it'll just be playing time.
So we'll have to wait and see what that is. But I think that's honestly a triple win. It's a triple win. It's not just a win-win. It's a win-win-win. And here's why. The Chiefs got 3.5 years out of a 6th-round pick. And then they're going to flip it for essentially another 6th-round pick. So
that's pretty good.
That's incredible. But you save $1.4 million on the cap. You free up a spot for somebody like Kadarius Toney to make the roster. Now you don't have to do anything else because he essentially just takes his roster. Also, you get a 7th-round pick, and it proves that your drafting worked. The reason they're letting go of Fenton is because you've got McDuffie, Watson, and Williams who are all good enough that you don't need Rashad Fenton. He honestly, at this point in time, was CB5 behind Snead, McDuffie, Watson, and Williams. So you get another crack at it in the 7th round, which this now makes 5 7th-round picks for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, as long as all the conditional picks that are projected to go to Kansas City through various free agencies and all that jazz, which usually with those are projected pretty spot on, that would give Kansas City 5 7th-round picks, which you can bundle a lot of that together and go up to the 6th round.
Exactly. You've got
you can do some bundling.
You'll have 4 comp picks, and maybe if Fenton plays a ton, that becomes just a 7th-round pick. Who knows? So you might have 2 7th-round picks and then 3 comp picks. So you bundle all that. So the Chiefs, I think that's terrific. Rashad Fenton Congratulations.
He was already falling out of favor. Like, he was already not playing well, falling out of favor. You wanted to play the rookies. This works out. And now Fenton can probably go get more playing time in Atlanta where they can use him more in their rotation.
Yeah.
So it works out for everybody involved.
And the Chiefs have so much draft capital at the end of the draft. They've got 5 7th, 1 6th, 1 5th, 2 4ths, 1 3rd, 1 2nd, and 1 1st. So a total of 12 draft picks. They're going to draft 12 times. Bundle every 7th, all 5 of them, and move up into the 6th round. Or take 3 7ths and that 6th and maybe move up into the 5th round. I mean, 7th round picks that don't hold a lot of points in the old Jimmy Johnson draft, calculator aspect. But you can, bundle all those together. Or let's say you want to take one of those 4ths and you want to move up 15 spots. Say, yeah, we'll take, a 5th and 4 7ths. Or, hey, we'll take our 4th. We'll give you our 4th plus 2 of our 7ths. Hey, you get 2 more draft picks, and all we want to do is move up. So at least you can do some of that if you are the Kansas City Chiefs. Even to move up 5 spots, 6 spots, you don't need 5 7th round picks. And let's say they do pick 2 times in the 7th round. The Kansas City Chiefs got Isaiah Pacheco and Jalen Watson in the 7th round. You still can get some guys in the 7th round. So I like it. I think it's terrific. It works out well. So that's the only move that the Kansas City Chiefs made. If you don't include the Kadarius Toney move, I don't think Kadarius Toney is going to help out a ton this year. Kadarius Toney speaking to the media here today. We'll get to that if we've got some time. But the trade deadline has come and gone. It was a wild one yesterday. Fulton, you missed it. It was a wild one.
I missed being here. I noticed as all the trades were popping, I was like, man, I'm kind of missing some fun action here today.
And so I look at the biggest movers. If you want to talk about just yesterday, the biggest movers are the Dolphins and the Bills. The Dolphins get their pass rusher that they need because their defense stinks right now. And the Bills get much needed help at the safety spot as they bring in Dean Marlowe. No one knows that name, but he played for the Bills, knows kind of the system. But Jordan Poyer is back hurt. Hyde's done for the year. You need somebody who knows the system, so they bring in Dean Marlowe. And then you bring in Nyheim Hines, who is not a great runner, but that's who they got for Singletary. They need him to catch the ball out of the backfield because Singletary can't do it. Zach Moss can't do it, and that was part of the trade to get to Nyheim Hines. So I think the Bills getting a safety help and running back help who can catch the ball is a huge boost for the Buffalo Bills to help them shore up some weak spots. And then the Dolphins getting Bradley Chubb and Jeff Wilson. Running back wise, Jeff Wilson knows the system because Mike McDaniel came from the 49ers. I think those are the 2 biggest wins yesterday. And if you go with the whole entire week, I think there are 4. And if you want to count the 49ers, which you probably should right now, because if they don't have Christian McCaffrey, they probably don't win the game this past Sunday. So 5 winners at the trade deadline. I think obviously the Bills and the Dolphins. I look at the Ravens. They needed help at the linebacker spot. They got it with Roquan Smith.
That's true.
And you got a 2nd round pick back essentially because of the trade. So you've got the Ravens, I think, are a win with Roquan Smith. The Eagles getting Robert Quinn gives you another pass rush. Throw in the Dolphins and the Bills, and then the 49ers as well. Those would be my 5 teams that really have improved from the trade deadline. Now, the Bills didn't give up a ton. Like, great, you gave up Zach Moss and a pick for Nyheim Hines. Not a huge loss capital-wise. The Ravens giving up a 2nd is legit. The 49ers giving up everything that they did. Like, think about that. The 49ers gave up a 2nd, 3rd, and a 4th for Christian McCaffrey. And, now granted, they get him for a lot longer. They gave up a bunch for McCaffrey, whereas some other teams didn't quite give up as much. The Dolphins are going all in with Bradley Chubb. He is now one of the featured guys on that team with the extension that they're eventually going to give him. I think they're all winners because they're all, to me, outside of the Dolphins, And the Dolphins, that's a long-term move. Everyone else here is more of a short-term move, except for the 49ers, which is why they gave up a lot. That's how I view the trade deadline is the Bills, did they all of a sudden become vastly better than the Kansas City Chiefs? No, but I do think they did help themselves in depth purposes if Jordan Poyer can't go. Now, if Jordan Poyer can't go for some odd reason, he gets dinged up again, doesn't matter that Dean Marlowe is there. Dean Marlowe is not Jordan Poyer. If Jordan Poyer, who now has a shoulder injury to go along with the lung injury, if Jordan Poyer can't, let's say in week 10, he gets hurt again and he's done for the year, Dean Marlowe ain't filling that role. That is a loss. But what this does do is if he misses a game here, hey, you know what? Let's take him out a couple series, try to limit the action. That is what that move does. And then the Himes moves help them to be a little bit more versatile on offense. The realization is it's not oh, wow, the Chiefs defense is totally screwed now because they've got Nyheim Hines. No, it's, hey, just in case on a third down play, we can dump it off to Himes and he can run for 40 yards. So it's just a small added value, but sometimes small added value is a big thing. So that's what I look at. The Chiefs are playing the long game. They're not playing the short game where a bunch of these teams are just trying to find spots here or there. The biggest name traded is Bradley Chubb and Roquan Smith, but Roquan Smith might not be signed long-term. So there's a lot of movement, but if you'd ask me today, I still think the Chiefs beat the Bills 4 out of 10 times. The Bills win 6 out of 10. Okay. But that move doesn't mean, the Chiefs are battling a complete uphill battle. They're saving it for the offseason. They're saving their draft capital. They didn't like what they saw. They're going to wait and see what the free agent market does. Then that'll be for next year. But this team can win the Super Bowl with this group.
Yeah, and the Chiefs are believing their in-house candidates can keep their team rolling with where they are. And there is reason to believe that with the way this team has gone, they can progress and keep going. That's fine. I don't know if I'd call the Bills winners at the deadline because did what they do help? Maybe. But nothing they did moved a needle. Like adding Dean Marlowe, that is purely just you wanted some safety depth. Cool. Awesome. Adding Nyheim Hines was okay. Running backs don't move the needle, though. Unless they are elite, high-level stars like Christian McCaffrey. And depending on your offensive style, they just don't do anything. Like, are the Bills better because they have Nyheim Hines to pair with Devin Singletary than Zach Moss? I don't think you can definitively say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, does Hines do some things better than Moss? Sure. Is it something that's going to all of a sudden win the Bills a game down the line? No. The Bills will never win a game because they now have Nyheim Hines on their roster. Never. Not one. Not a single individual one. So, on that front, the Chiefs and Bills, I don't think they at all changed their balance for their games coming up down the line. I think that balance is the exact same as it was back in week 5. That's the exact same. The Dolphins got legitimately better. Adding Bradley Chubb to pair up with Jalen Phillips on that pass rush helps them this year, and then as long as they sign Bradley Chubb long-term, which there's no reason to believe they won't, helps them long-term. Jeff Wilson is a nice complementary piece to the running back backfield to try and pair with Raheem Mostert. It's the same concept, though. Mm-hmm. Running backs just don't move the needle. But adding Bradley Chubb, that to me means the Dolphins actually could maybe fight and make some noise in the AFC. Because now their defense can get home so much easier without having to bring a lot of extra pressure, which would help their back end that has struggled a little bit this year. The Ravens, I liked what they did, but theirs comes down long-term. It comes down to what do they do with Roquan Smith. I have to assume they'll try and sign him. But then again, you are committing so much money to Roquan Smith and to Lamar Jackson. Because both those guys need to get paid this offseason, depending on what you do. So, overall, the Dolphins are my big winner getting Bradley Chubb. I think they had a glaring need to really soup up their pass rush, and they went out and really got arguably the best pass rusher available. So I think they did tremendous work. Bills did what they needed to do. The Lions melted down, and their brain is potato soup because they traded T.J. Hawkinson to Minnesota that I still don't understand what they're really doing. Jacksonville makes a move that is better for next year, has quite literally no impact on this current season. there are a lot of other middle moves and little moves, but overall, the Dolphins did the biggest swing. I think the Ravens got themselves better, and the Bills they have made it to where they can weather injuries more. They did not increase their top end level at all, but they did give themselves a little bit better of a floor.
We got plenty to get to on this edition of Mic'd Up. We will get into the Bill Self and KU self-imposed sanctions, 4-game suspension for Bill Self and for Curtis Townsend, a few other details that have already occurred, some scholarship reductions, in-home visits, that type of thing. We'll get to that. I know some people on the Big O Tires text line mentioning that. We will talk about that in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll get to head coach Andy Reid. He met with the media today. Kadarius Toney, Patrick Mahomes. Lots to discuss. As always, hit us up in the Big O Tires text line. From the Big O Tires, what happens if the conditions aren't met?
It stays the 7th
for the trade. Then it is just a 7th round pick.
The conditions are what will upgrade it to a 6th round pick.
Correct.
So the conditions aren't met. It's just one of Atlanta's 7ths, wherever they plucked it from. But if the conditions are met, then it will upgrade and elevate itself to a 6th round
and
pick.
I think there's a decent chance of that if Fenton plays well. But also just doesn't get hurt. Because the 2 starting corners for the Falcons are hurt right now. Casey Hayward and AJ Terrell are both hurt. So they need help.
No,
they really do.
And likely Rashad Fenn's going to slot in well there. We don't know the conditions yet of what those are. And those are honestly rarely ever detailed about what it really levels up to, or at least detailed heavily. But depending on what happens, it could become a 6th. If not, at worst, the Chiefs have an extra 7th.
A little update from Nashville. Amani Hooker will not practice today, and they're waiting to see on Ryan Tannehill. Mike Vrabel says the Titans are expecting Ryan Tannehill to practice today. They'll continue to work through things to see how it goes. I'll tell you this, if Malik Willis is the starting quarterback against the Kansas City Chiefs, the Chiefs are winning the football game, and it's not even close. And that is maybe why the spread is 12.5. If Ryan Tannehill is starting, I don't think it's 12.5. If Malik Willis is, I understand that. For those of you wondering, Malik Willis went 6 of 10 for 55 yards and an interception against the Houston Texans, and they just ran it.
With Malik Willis under center, it was, we are not going to let him throw the football.
They Tractor Cito had 32 carries, 32 for 219 yards, which is incredible. And they just ran the football. You're not going to beat the Chiefs running the football 45 times. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. So we'll monitor that here for the rest of this week. Coming up next, little recap from last night's game in Bramlage, the Jerome Tang era. We'll get to that next. K-State Wildcats took care of business against the Washburn Ichabods yesterday. Jerome Tang, the Tang Gang's first ever game. Now, we found out in the postgame that there was a lot of playing time construction and alteration due to the secret scrimmage that they had. And so that's why you didn't see Jarrell Colbert until late, because he played a bunch in the scrimmage. Keontae Johnson didn't play much because he played a lot in the scrimmage. They're trying to look at his minutes. So that was a little bit different. But the first thing that I can tell you about K-State hoops, it looked like purple Baylor. It really did. Just long athletes everywhere. Naquan Tomlins, Colbert, Gisan, Keontae Johnson, Carter Green, just athletes all over. Like, these dudes are athletic, all can jump. They just play so hard. The conditioning is so impressive for K-State. They're going to crash the glass like crazy. The ball goes up. They are all at the rim. And just, it was like they played 6 guys on the court with just how many arms and bodies and hands were flying around. They run. They run because they're athletic. They're like deer. The thing that I'm worried about is that they don't have a lot of bucket getters. Keontae Johnson is, and he only played 11 minutes, and I understand that. But they don't have a lot of guys who just flat out put the ball in the hoop. There's not I don't want me to sound like mean here. They don't have a Nigel Pack who's just a shooter bucket getter. A lot of their points are going to be off of offensive rebounds, hustle plays, transitions, those type of things. They didn't shoot the 3 well at all in the game, and I don't know if they're going to shoot the 3 well. Like, if you look at past history, this isn't a team that shoots the 3 well. And I'm talking about the individuals. I think this team plays so hard. They are going to be fun. They're going to be exciting. I just wonder about bucket getters. That's the one thing. Coming up, we're going to hear from head coach Andy Reid here on Mic'd Up. Welcome back into Mic'd Up. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll get into the news of the Big 12 and KU basketball. A lot of layers to the self-imposed penalties by Kansas, and Chancellor Douglas Girardi made a statement. Travis Goff, we'll get to that coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. We will get to some more news when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs. All of that will be coming up here on Mic'd Up. As always, hit us up on our Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. If you want to, check it out on the interwebs, cyberspace.
Every time you say interwebs and cyberspace, I'm like, I just want to put something out here. Jake is a fairly technologically knowledgeable person.
The reason I say that is that's what Bill Snyder said one time, where he's like, cyberspace or the interwebs.
I understand. I assumed it came from somewhere.
Yeah.
But normally when I hear people use that, it's used in the context of people who are not usually heavily literate in technology. Yeah. I want to give you your credit. You're actually pretty technologically literate.
And I mean, I know.
So I find it funny.
I know what's going on with Snapbook and Insta Face. I mean, I'm good.
Well, now you're just doing a bit.
Okay, that is true.
Now you're just doing a bit.
Let's ride. We're gonna get to a lot more coming up in the 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock hours. Kellis Robinette will join us coming up to preview Texas versus K-State, plus little hoops. Talk a little K-State athletics. But you can follow us online. Sports on 580 on Twitter, as well as Sports on 580, that's 580, on YouTube. So just Google Sports on 580 YouTube. It'll pop up. You click on it. You can watch the show. We'll be doing that for Mic'd Up and 580 Sports Talk from now until, well, they tell us not to. So
the inevitable death of the universe.
Pretty much. Earlier today, Andy Reid met with the media. Want to get to that audio. Andy Reid opens up about Britt Reid and the sentencing of 3 years for what occurred 2 years ago in 2019 or 2020, beg your pardon. Doesn't really want to talk about it. Gets into the Titans, kind of the injuries. Lucas Niang back practicing. That's a big deal. That's all happening. We'll hear from Mahomes as well, but here's what head coach Andy Reid had to say.
Britt's situation goes. I'm not going to talk about that. There's nothing that I can say that or deals with that. It's going to help us be successful for this weekend against the Titans. And Britt really said it all in his statement yesterday, which I believe is public. So with that, as far as the injuries go, Jody Fortson really is the only one that's not going to practice today. He's got a quad contusion. And then the people that are coming back here, McDuffie will be back, Niang will be back, and then we added Kadarius, which I think we know, and he's healthy. He'll practice. Fenton, we traded to Atlanta, and we're wishing him the best of luck. And we've got corners. We have corners coming back now, so we've got depth with some young guys. So we continue to utilize them and let them continue to grow, which they're doing every week. And then about the Titans, I mean, this is a good football team. Every minute that we can spend studying them, in learning their scheme, mastering it, and then mastering our schemes to play against them, I think is important. Limiting distractions is important, and working hard on the practice field is important. Getting back into the swing. We've had a week off here, so getting back into the swing of playing the game. And like I said, they're good offensively. They're good defensively. At defensive front, you're going to find they're one of the better ones in the National Football League. Their head coach is a defensive mastermind. He's a sharp dude and presents you different pictures every week. He designs them for you and for your team specifically on formations and tendencies that you might have. And then offensively, you start with 22, and he's a good football player. So a future Hall of Famer, and just a heck of a player. And then special teams wise, I think they're ranked in the top 10 in special teams. So that all in all, it's a good football team. But we look forward to that challenge. That's why we do this, and it's an opportunity to go against a good team. It's important though that we have a good week of practice, and it started today. So that time's yours.
Andy, Frank Clark had maybe his most productive game of the year before against the 49ers. Do you have anything to say to him before he left on his suspension?
I did. Just which he'll do. Stay in shape. He's gone through the other process, the law enforcement process. So, but to stay in shape, he'll be out a week, Adam, and then he's back. But he'll do the right things. I mean, obviously he's a good player. You miss that, but it gives other guys opportunities to step up, which our guys do. So.
Coach, you mentioned Lucas needing back to practice, obviously opening up this 21-day window. What about Blake Bell? Is he getting closer to return?
Yeah, Blake's close. He's close. We'll just see how he does here the next week or two. See where we're at. But he's back. Niang worked hard. He's back in, which is, like you said, Herbie. We'll see how he does. These guys that come back off of these long stints off, we'll see how they do on the field before we throw them in there.
It doesn't look like we perhaps know who's going to start for them at quarterback, right? With Tannehill being a little bit hurt. You know all about him. What have you seen from Willis in this short little bit you've seen?
Yeah, he's an exciting player now. And even though he's young, he's thrown a ton of balls in his time. So, and then we know about the ability to run, and you've got to. He comes out last week and does a nice job. So we've and we'll be ready for both of them in case that's the situation. So we'll get ourselves prepared for both.
So the 49ers work Christian McCaffrey in right away. Is that more difficult to do with a wide receiver comes to your team just because of what he has to learn within the play?
Yeah, we'll try to work him in, though. We're going to try to do it. He's a smart kid. He's been with us now a couple of days, so we had a chance to talk to him. And he picks things up fairly easy. He was with Kafka, too, so that Mike, there a little bit of the plays terminology, even though they're using mostly the Buffalo thing, but a little bit of it's familiar to him. At least he has a foundation, somewhat of a foundation.
Andy, Duffy's back now, but was it a tough decision to whether to play him or not against the 49ers or even the week before against the Bills, or where was he in that regard?
Yeah, so we try to you know how we do it. I mean, we try to keep open communication with these guys and see what they're feeling, and their coaches know them, see what the coach sees, talk with the player, see how he feels, and then obviously our medical staff and trainers. So when it was all said and done, we just said, you know what, he needs a little bit more time, and he's been great communication wise with us. We know he wants to play, but it's.
Andy, I know you said you're not going to talk about the case now that it's reached its conclusion, but moving forward, as Brett's father, how will you try to best support him during his sentence and when he may be free?
Yeah. So Nate, listen, that's not what this platform's for. That's my point. I know you guys have a job to do, and you have editors that push you guys like head coaches push assistant coaches. So I get it. But this isn't the time or the place. And what I say can go two different ways and be taken different ways. And I don't want to put my players in a position for that, the organization in a position for that, my family in a position for that. My opinion doesn't matter right now. Doesn't matter. All that doesn't matter. I'll take care of that. We all in our lives have issues that we have to deal with. You do your issues, and then when you're at work, you do your work. Right. And so that's the frame of mind I'm in. I appreciate, your concern, though. I'm not saying that, but that's not something that needs to be addressed here in front of, everybody.
Coach, sorry. I know you mentioned distractions, when we talk about Frank, being out for the 2 weeks and everything, we hear when there's an announcement, he's going to be suspended or he's got a court date or something. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, obviously, behind the scenes. You mentioned everybody, you have home and you have here, you've got legal different things you got to do. Is there a support system within the organization, within the staff? Is it a position coach? Is it, and how you help guide Frank in this situation, but other situations, whether it's Willie or whatever, how that works? I mean, you could shed a little light on how.
Yeah, sure. We hired Dr. T here few years ago here. So, and he, he obviously takes care of I hate saying it, but the mental part of it, and make sure that the guys are okay upstairs. Normally their agents have a law enforcement part that a lawyer group that they work with. So that's how that part goes, that's basically.
Do you get involved?
And then the coaches talk to them. Yeah, absolutely. Keep open communication. Yeah.
Last two.
Coach, just want to ask about Derrick Henry, a guy that's always, sorry.
No, that's all right.
Oh, it's just a guy who's always, kind of a thorn in your guys' side. You think you've faced him 5 times since he's joined the Titans, and even though you guys have been able to hold him before, he still is so explosive. So is there any different approach going into this game, just knowing what he's capable of?
Yeah. There are going to be things that you're going to try to do to stop him. I mean, I think the whole NFL's tried that somewhere. So he's a great player, and you're not going to stop him on every play. You just want to get him. You want to get the numbers up where it's reasonable of stops, and but he's a good one. I know our guys will be fired up for it, and they're going to work their tail off this week to play against him because he's like I said, he's a future Hall of Fame player. You get excited about that.
Last.
Coach, I know you guys have used Sky at the punt return position and bringing in Kadarius. Now, how much can he help with the punt return? How much went into bringing him in?
I wanted to see kind of where he's at, just shape wise out there, running around, and but we know he can do it, and you'll see him out there catching balls with the group, the pre-practice group that goes out. So. But let me just kind of see it and see where we're at with it and where he's at. We got a couple plays in for him here and there, and so but I haven't had a chance to be out on the field with him, yet. Let's see where we go with that, and then go from there. He seems like a great kid, and he's anxious. I mean, he wants to go. And he knows I'm kind of holding back because I want to see what's going on. But,
Last one, Jeremy.
Andy, how would you describe Patrick's growth this year in distributing the ball, based on what the defense is giving?
Yeah, I think he's done a good job with it. I think the older the quarterbacks get, they know when to be patient, check it down, when to take the shots, against what coverages. I think he's there. He's now seeing the man coverages early, the zone coverages, whether it's single safety, middle, in between, and then the shell coverages, the 2s, the 4s, the quarter halves. And so he's got that in the memory bank to work with. So I think he's in a good place that way.
So that is what Andy Reid had to say today to the media. A few things that McDuffie will go because his 21-day window will close, and they give him an extra 2 weeks without playing him in San Francisco. You got the bye week. So McDuffie should be good to go. I do wonder about kind of the rust situation. If he was a veteran guy, I wouldn't be worried. I know DeAndre Hopkins is a outlier. Like, he's one of the top 5 wide receivers of the last 10 years. So him coming back and having no issues, that's not a surprise. But it's not the same.
No, because it's also not an injury for Hopkins as well.
Well, it's also, he's a rookie.
Yeah, that matters too.
I mean, he is a rookie, and so that does factor things in there. So I think that'll be good. I wonder about Lucas Niang. Probably not going to help the team out because Wiley's been okay, but it gives you at least some depth. If somebody does go down, what do the Chiefs do? Do you just plug in Wiley to left tackle or right tackle, or Niang to left tackle or right tackle? I do think that is a good situation. Talks about Derrick Henry, has had a lot of success. We'll get more into the Chiefs' run defense maybe later on this week, tomorrow or Friday, because the Chiefs' run defense has not been good.
It has really started falling off the table.
Yeah, started out great, and maybe there's a reason it started out great. We'll get to that as well. But I thought Andy Reid handled the whole Britt Reid situation very well there. You can tell he understands. Bosses say you need to ask this. I always go back to Roy Williams when he's like, Bonnie, I know someone in your ear is telling you to ask that, but a normal person doesn't. Andy Reid knows that, hey, this is their job. They're going to ask about it. He didn't yell at them. He didn't scream at them. He didn't storm off. He just said, look, I get why you're doing it. I understand why you're doing it. I hope you understand why I'm not going to comment on it. It does not benefit me at this point in time. We've released statements. And so I thought Andy Reid handled that very well.
No,
I really did.
Yeah, I think Andy handled that perfectly from it has to be a very emotional time for him and the family and everything else that's been going on. And the best part of that, outside of just Andy's real level-headed way of working through on his personal side, was understanding reporters aren't asking that because they feel like asking. It is truly someone has probably told them to try and work on it for something.
And it is their job.
It is. It's just their job. And he understands, he understands it's coming from a place of it is just your job. You are not trying to cause a problem. You're doing what you're here to do. And I think Andy handled it well to kind of be like, hey, I get where you're coming from, but also try to understand where I'm coming from. And I'm not going to talk about this. We're just going to move on. I think everyone in that room actually handled that situation incredibly well when it started to come up there, because there's bad ways both sides can handle that, and I think both parts of it handled it very well of a very delicate situation.
We got a lot more to get to. Hit us up on our Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. Our list today is very simple. It involves not just holidays, like people call these the holidays, right? Coming up with Thanksgiving and Christmas and, Hanukkah and was it National Boxing Day and all of them coming up.
Now, the Brits have Boxing Day.
And they do. And then Canada Day coming up. I'm talking about ridiculous things that people do during holidays year round. Like, I'm talking like any holiday and people does something. Because
any holiday, someone does something ridiculous. Like if someone does something, if I think some people do something ridiculous during Easter,
yes,
that counts.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a wide breadth to go with here.
Yeah, and that's why I'm encompassing all of them.
Yeah, it's any holiday that exists.
Yes.
If you think people do something just crazy during
ridiculous things that people do during the holidays. All right. We'll get into that. A little foreshadowing. Fulton, you're on my list.
Yeah, we're gonna have to fight.
No, we're not gonna fight. We're not gonna fight.
You're gonna make me angry. We're gonna have to have a fight.
You should not be angry. Why are you angry right now?
I just
why
know
are you
what's
angry?
gonna happen. I know what's gonna happen.
But you shouldn't be angry. That would be like me saying I like, the Missouri Tigers. Like, you shouldn't be mad at me. You should.
No, I'd be mad at you for that.
But you shouldn't. I would be. Like, are you mad that Matt Derrick supports the
No,
Tigers?
because Matt's awesome.
Oh, okay.
Because Matt's a good guy.
Apparently, I'm not awesome. Okay. We'll get to that because there are a few things that are just, come on now. We'll get to that coming up in the 1 o'clock hour here on Mic'd Up. We'll get a quick timeout. We'll finish up this noon hour next here on Mic'd Up. Finishing up this noon hour here on Mic'd Up. The World Series is going on right now. I have not watched a single pitch of the World Series, and I don't
missed out on some fun.
I know. Just World Series baseball when your team is involved is amazing. It really is, because it can be 6 games, it can be 7 games, it could be 5 games if your team's really good, like in 2015. But it's amazing because the games, are there's so much downtime. That's why the games can be awesome. Playoff baseball is awesome if your team is involved. I absolutely hate the Astros. I will not watch the Astros. If it was another team, I might, but I just have no desire watching the Astros. And baseball to me is now super regional. But I do like the fact that the Phillies dominated last night. That was great. Go Phillies. Go Phillies, go. Always been a big Phillies fan, to be honest with you. But last night was interesting because according to Mr. McCullough, Mr. Smack the Neck with his fingers. Everybody remembers Lance McCullough in 2015 where he hit the back of his head and he was like taunting the Royals. That was great. I remember Lance McCullers then. Well, he gave up 4 home runs. And he gave up 5 home runs. 5 home runs. He gave up 4 home runs on off-speed pitches. Okay? So 4 of his 5 are on off-speed pitches. A lot of people think he was tipping his pitches. He says, I wasn't. I got beat. Okay. I'm going to point this out as well. Before Tuesday, McCullers hadn't given up a single home run on 651 off-speed pitches this season. And yet he gave up 4 home runs in 1 game. The numbers don't add up, Lance. Tell me you don't want to admit you were tipping your pitches without telling me you don't want to admit you were. Hopefully you get it fixed. You're not going to pitch again the rest of this series, so it's really not going to matter. But yeah, he was tipping his pitches. Don't give up a home run in almost 700 pitches, and then you give up 4 of them in 1 game? Are you buying it?
I think there's a chance he was tipping. There's also a chance that he just got beat because every pitch he gave up a homer on was right over the middle of the plate. And the Phillies knew all he throws is breaking balls. That's all he throws. They're ready.
We got a lot more to get to coming up. Hour 2 of Mic'd Up on this Wednesday. Jake Von Fultoncaster with you. Thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday. We got a lot to get to, and you can hit us up multiple ways now. You can check us out on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. You can give us a call. You can hit us up on Twitter, Sports on 580, 580. You can also go to YouTube and watch the show. Click on the link. You can comment on our YouTube page. Go to YouTube and then type in Sports on 580. That's Sports on 580. Very simple, very easy. Click on that. A lot of different ways for you to catch the show here for Mic'd Up and in the afternoon on 580 Sports Talk. We'll get to Everyone Loves the List, and we'll also hear from Patrick Mahomes. Kel Stromanet will join us in the top of the 2 o'clock hour. But news that came out today that I was not expecting, and that was KU self-imposing several sanctions to its ongoing basketball investigation, which started in 2017. 2017. Fulton was like 9 years old.
I was not.
You get the point. So here are the self-imposed sanctions. 4-game suspension for head coach Bill Self and assistant coach Curtis Townsend that will start this year. The absence of Self and Townsend from all off-campus recruiting-related activities for 4 months earlier this year, April through July. We knew that already, that they weren't out on the recruiting trail. The reduction of 4 official visits during the academic year and in 2023-2024. So that's coming up. So 4 visits they won't be able to do. A reduction of 3 scholarships in men's basketball to distributed over the next 3 years. So 1 every year. The implementation of a 6-week ban on recruiting communications, a 6-week ban on unofficial visits, and a 13-day reduction on the number of permissible recruiting days during the 2022-2023 calendar year, which is the one right now. No official visits for the 2022 late night in the fog, which was already. So of these 6 sanctions, 3 of them have already occurred. Recruiting, no visits, and the implementation of a ban. Also, the on-campus recruiting with Bill Self. So almost 4. The scholarships and then the 4-game suspension are coming up. And according to the Kansas Jayhawks, it says here, we are hopeful these difficult self-imposed sanctions will assist in bringing the case to a conclusion, said AD Travis Goff. Until then, we'll continue to focus our support on our men's basketball student athletes and coaches. Assistant coach Norm Roberts will serve as the interim coach for the first 4 games per confidential guidelines, and due to the infractions case, we are unable to comment. Bill Self said, Coach Townsend and I accept and support KU's decision to self-impose these sanctions. We are in good hands with Coach Roberts. I'm confident that he will do a great job on the bench leading our team. I'm proud of our way our guys have handled this situation. Look forward to returning to the bench for our game against North Carolina State. So, that is what is happening. The first thing that jumps out to my mind when I see this is something that KU vehemently denied. They were not going to help the NCAA. They were not going to do self-imposed sanctions, because we've found out previously, don't do that because the NCAA doesn't matter. So why are they doing that now? Why is it that they are now doing self-imposed sanctions? This is a new regime. It was under the Jeff Long regime that they we're not going to do anything. We're not going to do anything. Well, now at Travis Goff, maybe it's different. Maybe it's different because the IARP is involved. They are the ones that are going to make the decision, okay? Not the NCAA. If it was the NCAA, maybe they don't do this. So there are 2 variables right now that make me wonder why they're doing this. One, new regime, Travis Goff. Maybe they're like, hey, we just need to get out in front of it and see if this lightens the load, what they want to do. Number 2, it's the IARP. We don't know. Number 3, you just won the national championship. Someone on Twitter said, well, maybe they'll vacate the national title. They are not. That has nothing to do with it. This is all the 2017-2018 year. This is Billy Preston, Silvio De Sousa, the FBI, the wiretaps, Curtis Townsend on tape, that type of stuff, Gatto and all those guys. That's what this is for. The banner ain't coming down in 2021, okay? And maybe that's where they're like, okay, we just won the whole entire thing. Our fan base is happy. You're wearing your national championship shirts. We saw the banner go up. Life is good, right? Maybe that's another variable on why they're doing this. Hey, let's see if we can't get out of it in front now. Because I personally think, KU cannot complain about NCAA tournament now for at least 3 years. You won the national title.
Fair.
You can't. Stop it.
No, that's fair.
Stop.
I'm with you on that.
All right. If you're complaining 2 years after you just won a national title, you will never be happy. You will never be pleased. Okay. Enjoy the moment sometimes.
I agree with that.
All right. Hell, I still think about fondly the 2015 World Series. So I wonder if that's the case. I don't know. Is this enough for the IARP to say, yep, that'll work? That's enough. Yep, we're okay. Or is KU saying, hey, we're doing all this. We're doing a lot of recruiting stuff. Self's not going to do this. Self's not going to do that. A lot of in-home visits, all that. Maybe they're meeting halfway and then the other half will be maybe something else. Because what KU doesn't want is a postseason ban. That's the number one thing. Honestly, if they take down the Final Four banner of 2018, no one's going to care. You want to know why? You just won a title. You just won a title. All right? What have you done for me lately? Oh, you won a title? 2018, who gives a crap about that Final Four banner? Whatever. It's a banner. It's not like
We'd like to also forget that Final Four because it involved the Villanova blitzing in the Final Four matchup.
But there's so many things to look at. Is this enough? It isn't. Now, this is what's interesting, and I want to remember about this. The NCAA went to KU and said, you have 5 level 1 NCAA violations. 5 of them, and they tacked on the lack of institutional control. That's a lot of violations. This would not be enough for that if it were the NCAA. The IARP might be doing things differently. It really, really would. And we don't know yet what's going to happen. According to Jeff Goodman says Kansas isn't expected to receive its actual penalties from the NCAA until after this season. Which brings up a whole nother set of discussion points of this started in November of 2017 when Billy Preston got into a car accident and he didn't play. The only game he played in a Kansas uniform was in that Charity for Relief showdown against Missouri. And then it involved Silvio De Sousa, the wiretaps, everything. You're trying to tell me that we're going to actually enforce penalties 5 years later, maybe even 6 after this year, which means then the 2023 season, that means 2017 was the start of all this. So you got the 2017-18, 2018-19, 2019-20, 2021, and now 2020. That's 5 years. 5 years this has been going on, and we don't have a damn resolution. This is pathetic. This is pathetic. Whether you agree with this, they're doing, I've seen a lot of slap on the wrist, which I agree with. This is a complete slap on the wrist. If you want KU to be hit harder because they cheated, I understand that. I do. They're caught on tape offering money to get Silvio De Sousa. I understand that. I totally get that. Then the KU side of things, who are saying, well, they never technically did do that. Well, technically, the IARP might not have to go with that. The NCAA could just say, no, we're going to ride with this. No, that's not enough. I have no idea what's going to happen. I will wait to determine if I think this is the proper amount of punishment for this until I know the case is completely solved. We don't know if this is enough. We don't. This might not be enough. The IRP might say, nope, you got to do a postseason ban, and Bill Self, you're suspended for a year. Remember, Once the IARP makes a decision, there's no appeals. It's finalized. And so maybe this is a, olive branch to say, hey, look what we're doing. Don't hammer us too hard. Maybe they'll come back and say, we're going to give you more penalties, just more recruiting side of things. I don't know. I will wait to determine it. But the longer this goes on, the more and more it feels like the punishment is not going to fit the crime. It won't. But it's getting to the point where we're talking about punishing the players who were 6th graders and 7th graders in 2017. That to me does not jive. I don't like that at all. I can't stand the reduction of scholarships. Yeah, let's penalize potential student athletes and give them the money. Because in general, what it does is it takes away money from the pool of potential high school or college athletes or transfers. 3 less scholarships at Kansas means 3 less scholarships potentially at Cincinnati. Well, KU can't get that recruit. Okay, so KU goes and somebody else goes get it's a trickle-down effect to me. I can't stand that. Yeah, let's punish the players so they can't get to go to KU. I hate that. That's so stupid. Punish the people in charge. If you want to give Bill Self a year-long punishment, do it. Okay? If you want to give Curtis Townsend a show cause penalty or punish him for a year, do it. You want to take away restricting recruiting. I'm fully okay with that. Hey, you can't go out and recruit. That's a big deal. Hey, you can't bring in home visits. Cool. Don't take away scholarships. That's just hurting the high school athlete. And then make a decision. This is 2017. This is ridiculous.
Here's the thing, and I will lead off this thing I'm about to say with, I am going to be seeing all of this through KU classes. I can't take them off. Brendan and I have been very clear about that from the beginning. We understand that there's a level of an implicit bias we have.
Correct.
We understand that. This is the baseline it'll start with, and the IARP will give a little more.
Maybe. I don't know.
They will. No, 100% they will. However, precedent from what the IARP has handed down to Memphis has shown they will not punish current student athletes.
And that's good.
They do not believe in it. They do not believe the current student athletes should be punished for a thing they were not a part of. I would not be surprised if Bill Self gets a longer suspension. I would not be surprised if Curtis Townsend gets a show cause penalty. I would not be surprised if there's more recruiting restrictions. A postseason ban is probably never going to happen because they do not want to punish the current team, because no one on this team had anything to do with what happened before.
Now, I will say Bill Self, Curtis Townsend are part of this team.
I agree, but they do not want to punish the players for not letting them do something, which includes a postseason ban, because then you're saying current players, you didn't do anything. You could be the best team in the country. We're not going to let you go win a title. When it's like, they didn't do a damn thing. And all I will say is this, on the subject of, are these two lights, or they slap on the wrist, is Bill Self the worst coach in history of America and the dirtiest guy in the game? I'm just going to say the same thing I always do when this wants to come around. Welcome to college athletics since 1955. And that does not excuse punishing people for breaking rules. No. They should be punished for breaking rules. Bill Self, if he is found to be involved with what happened, should be punished for breaking a rule. I want to make that incredibly clear. But the only thing that ever irks me is the holier-than-thou attitude people want to get and acting like KU is the only ones that do this. Literally, nearly every program in the country does.
I understand. I see your point there, but the problem is that someone said, well, Duke should get these. Duke was not caught on audio tape.
Yeah,
Duke was
they
not
weren't caught, but they were doing it.
But it doesn't matter.
I know.
It doesn't matter if they were doing it or not.
I'm not saying they should be punished.
KU got caught.
I'm not trying to say they should be punished. I'm saying don't act like they aren't doing it.
I think
that's my point.
And if people do or don't, that's correct. But the people are like, well, Duke should be punished.
No, they should. They didn't get caught.
They didn't get caught. KU got caught.
Yeah, you get caught, you get punished.
With their hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah.
They knew the risks. They knew what was going on. From the Big O Tires text line, the current players and recruits you're talking about were fully aware of the violations since they were in 7th grade, and it's their own fault that they decided to go there knowing that the organization should be penalized. I agree with them, but I I would rather punish the people who were involved in it. That is a factual statement. I know you're laughing at that right now. That's a factual statement. If you go to KU and they get a postseason ban, I will not feel sorry for the incoming fresh because they did. I agree with this. I agree with this. I do. But I'm going to go with don't punish the people who didn't get involved with it. Right now, the people who are involved with it are no longer part of the program, and Silvio De Sousa and Billy Preston, Bill Self, and Curtis Townsend are. Punish those two individuals. And if you want to really hammer them, I have no problem with that. You were caught on audio saying, and if we go back to the real world, yes, they paid Silvio De Sousa to come to KU easily, obviously. If you want to get to the black and white aspect of the world, plausible deniability, that type of thing, I'll hear that as well. Also, not every school does this, not even close. Don't lump in everyone with a dirty school like KU. Not everyone does this. You are correct. Not everyone does. A lot of them do. A lot of them do. If people knew, right now you're seeing it, it's just on a.
Y'all see what's going on with NIL
with
right
NIL,
now, folks?
Yes, that is what's happening.
Y'all see what's happening
Yeah.
there? That is what's been going on since the 60s, just out in front of your face.
Yeah, it's now a little bit more above board with Texas A&M, which another real thing, real quick, about people want to just spend money to buy players. How's that working out for Texas A&M? It's not working. Do I think KU should be more punished than this? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. They broke the rule.
Yeah.
They should pay. I also hate the fact that the NCAA is taking forever, but we also know that loopholes can exist. North Carolina got a slap on they didn't even get punished for having fraudulent classes.
Yes, they were having athletes not even go to classes to get their degrees and got a slap on the wrist.
Well, they didn't get a slap on this. They got no punishment because they found a loophole.
Yeah.
Every student could have taken that class. It just so happens that 90% of them were athletes, but it was offered. So there's a lot to this. We'll have to wait and see what officially happens when it's all said and done. Then you can garner, I think, an overall opinion. Is this enough? No. I hate the scholarship reductions. I think that's stupid. I think KU is trying to limit what they're going to do for the IRP, but we'll have to wait and see. This is going to be a very hot button topic here in the state of Kansas because K-State had done things squeaky clean. KU clearly didn't. And that's going to be a very come at the end of the season. It's almost to the point where I don't even care anymore because it was in 2017. It really was. And maybe that's what KU's doing. Let's play the long game. Coming up next, we'll get to ridiculous things people do during the holidays. Alrighty, it is ridiculous things that people do during a holiday. That is our list today. Alrighty, Fulton, what do you got for number 4?
Number 4 for me, nuisance and too high levels of public drunkenness on St. Patrick's Day. If you are drinking so much you are causing public problems, I dislike you.
Okay.
Enjoy the holiday responsibly.
Okay. My number 4 is New Year's Eve party people. New Year's Eve is the worst holiday of the year.
Jake, we finally agree on something beautifully. It is the most overrated holiday in existence.
I feel like we've agreed on other things before.
We probably have, but I'm happy we agree on this one.
Yeah,
it's
New
the most
Year's Eve,
overrated holiday ever.
Like, I'm okay if you want to have a get together at somebody's house, but people are like, yeah, let's go to this big giant bat. No, hard pass.
No. That's why number 3 for me is, in fact, New Year's Eve parties. There's a theme with some of this. Yeah, New Year's Eve parties, they're stupid.
Number 3, wrapping gifts. I am a bag guy. I am a gift bag guy. I think wrapping gifts are dumb for adults. I think it's perfect for kids because kids love that kind of stuff. But if you're an adult, I will never, ever wrap it. It's going to be in a gift bag. I'm going to throw in a bag, put some tissue paper on it. Have fun.
Number 2 for me, Jake's going to hate me for this. Don't give me 4th of July fireworks 3 days before or 3 days after. It is to be had on the evening before the 4th of July and on the day of. As soon as 11 o'clock on the 4th of July hits, stop shooting them off.
No, that's my number 2. Lighting off fireworks on like July 1st.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Like, I'm okay with the 3rd and the 4th. The 5th, no. People are working. But no, yeah. What's your number 1?
Number 1, New Year's Day fireworks as well. Those are stupid and a nuisance.
Mine is putting up Christmas decor on November the 1st. That would be like me putting up Easter eggs in February. You would call me stupid. Therefore, I will call everyone out there, except for my wife, whom I love very much. Coming up next, we're going to hear from Patrick Mahomes. 136 here on Mic'd Up. Thank you so much for joining us. Hit us up on our Twitter page, Sports on 580. It's Sports on 580. Also, you can check us out on YouTube, Mic'd Up with Jake and Fulton. Go to youtube.com, search Sports on 580. Pretty simple, pretty easy.
You can now see why I was told many times as a kid that I had a face made for radio.
I always tell people I have a voice made for print.
I can't lie. I've never heard that one.
Now you can use that one.
I can now say I have a voice made for print.
Because that is one thing is, whoa, man, the saying is true with you. You should have a face for radio. And then I always add in, first of all, way to be original. That's like when someone from Kansas goes somewhere and they're like, you're not in Kansas anymore. It's like,
I want to knock that person across
Never
the
heard
head.
that one before. And then I always tell them, like, yeah, not only do I have a face for radio, I got a voice for print. Ah!
Yours is more creative than theirs.
Well, I'm more mocking them.
Yeah, I know.
I'm more like, oh my gosh, you're so funny. Not really. Like if you come up with something creative,
Yeah.
yes, I will give you a high
Find
five.
creative ways to tell us we're not good looking.
Yes.
Because trust us, we've heard them all.
Yeah, for real. The other day, my wife goes, "Whoa, you look rough."
Oh man! Did you tell her? Wow, thanks.
I did.
Wow.
From our YouTube comments, ridiculous things people do during the holidays: visit their in-laws.
Preach.
My in-laws are great.
Yes, Jake likes his in-laws.
I like my in-laws,
and I will say they're nice. I got to meet them at one of the Washburn games.
Yeah.
Very nice people.
Yeah, Lindsay's dad is great.
Yeah, very, very kind man.
Yeah, like my in-laws are great. Sucks to be y'all. How about that? Ha! You got crappy in-laws. Ha ha ha! Instead of face for radio.
Listen, it's very, very. I've had this belief, and this will continue to be my belief. If your wife, husband, whatever, loves their parents, you suck it up and you do it. Like you love them, so therefore you do things that make them happy. If they also don't like their family, I've said once, I'll say it all the time. Just don't go see them. If none of you like them, why are you around? I will use this moment in time to once again just re-hit. If neither of you like those people, why are they in your life?
You're talking about aunts, uncles, cousins.
This goes beyond in-laws of parents. This goes to if there are family members that both of you agree, man, we just really don't like this person or these people,
or they've done something very, very egregious.
Or yes, like anything that makes you go, both of you can agree, we don't want to be around X, Y, Z. Why are you?
Not to get all like family psychiatrist here. It's
just saying.
Aaron
Rodgers doesn't have a lot of great points on this one. He and I agree.
To me, every situation is different because
they are.
If you don't like them because they tie their shoes wrong, well, then I think you're stupid.
Yes.
Okay. If they've done something that causes irreparable
strife.
harm,
yeah.
Okay. I do think you should. Family's important, and I do think family. You should stick up for your family. But wild take right here, in this world that we live in where it's either this or this, how about we use some nuance when it comes to that?
This is just Fulton's usual PSA that don't keep toxic people in your life if you don't need to. Take care of yourselves.
And each other.
Yeah.
You know what that's off of?
No.
Jerry Springer.
No, of course.
Take care of yourselves and each other. Every kid my age who was sick at home during, at that age, watch Jerry Springer. Along with The Price is Right.
Steve Wilko's show was a show that was put on a lot when I was home during the day.
When you were sick, when you were a kid, if you were my age, Big O Tires text line, back me up here. If you were sick in, like the late 90s, when I was like 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or early 2000s, when I was a little bit older, like 96, 97, I'm 12, 13 years old, and you're just lying on the couch because you don't feel good. You always watch The Price is Right.
Yeah.
And then you watch Jerry Springer because it was hysterical.
Price is Right, great daytime television.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Price is Right's awesome.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes met with the media, and Patrick Mahomes talked about trick-or-treating. He went trick-or-treating with his daughter. Patrick Mahomes dressed up as the sun, and his daughter was a star. And there are video of him, holding his daughter's hand, walking back and forth, and doing trick-or-treating. Like I said, Patrick Mahomes and myself are not all that different.
You two have a few striking differences that change the map.
Just a few, but
just a few. They're just fairly important.
Just a few. And he mentions that, hey, people in Kansas City are very respectful. They didn't rush up to him if you were in that neighborhood and say, hey, can I get an autograph? Hey, they let him do his thing. They let him be dad. Right?
Good on you, Kansas City community that Patrick Mahomes was at. Good job.
Good on you.
That deserves an open kudos.
Yes.
Because
well done,
I
Kansas
can tell
City.
that's probably not easy for some. Cause I can't lie. If I'm in a neighborhood and I see Patrick Mahomes, well, I'm going to do like 3 takes of just confirming what I'm watching.
Oh, well, they probably did that, but good out there. So he talks about that, the off week, talks about Kadarius Toney, talks a lot. Here's what Patrick Mahomes had to say.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I had a ton of fun, and we were able to go around to a few houses. And Sterling figured out that she grabbed 2 pieces of candy, threw it in the basket, and then she was proud as she walked away. So even though she doesn't eat candy, she was proud to go out there and trick or treat and everything like that.
Did people recognize you when you went door to door?
Yeah, for sure. But people were respectful as they always are in Kansas City. So they let me just kind of enjoy my time with my daughter and my family. So it was really cool for sure.
Patrick, what are your impressions so far of your new wide receiver?
Yeah, first off, he's super excited. You can tell how much he's ready to get out there and play. Physically, everybody sees how much physical gifts he has. He's fast. He's bigger than I thought. And, he's done a good job of whenever he catches the ball and being able to make people miss in space. So we're just excited to get him kind of into this culture, into this team, and see what he can do in this offense.
How much chance to throw to him yet?
I throw to him just a little bit here and there, but we'll get more work this week, obviously. Like I think Coach Reed said, we'll just kind of work him in as the season goes on, and hopefully be able to use his talent to help take this offense even to another level.
What were the conversations like with Brett leading up to acquiring him?
Yeah, it was something that he actually approached me about during the offseason. So he's kind of kept me in the loop on everything, and it didn't work then. So you kind of get locked in during the season and kind of focused on the guys that are in the building, and how can we have success with these guys? And we've had a lot of success. And so he came to me, I think after the San Fran game, and kind of came back and said this might happen during the bye. We're talking with it and everything like that. And luckily enough for us, it did happen, and we were able to get another talented playmaker in that receiving room.
How were you made aware that the trade was actually going to be made, Patrick?
It was Brett texted me whenever he knew it was kind of done. So a little bit before social media got it and everything like that. But he's always looking to add great players, and we had competition in this room, and we have a lot of great receivers in that room, and we have a lot of great players on this team. And whenever you have more and more competition, it brings out the best in everybody. So I'm excited for that.
Patrick, can we talk about this game coming up? You guys are coming off a great game. We've had a bye week. This team is very successful off bye weeks. So how do you look at this Sunday night matchup with Tennessee with all those variables, this offense fully clicking but having a little time in there off?
Yeah, you got to be ready to play. Last year we weren't ready and they beat our ass. So we got to make sure that we are ready to go, and that it's going to be a physical matchup, and that we're going to have to go out there and play our best football. And this is a team that is a lot better than I think a lot of the people out in social media and media talk. They don't really talk about them, but we know that it's a great football team coming to town, and we have to play our best football.
This has been a team that's given you guys some trouble since you've been here, particularly even your rookie year. You went to the playoff game. What is it about them? What is it about Tennessee that maybe gives the Chiefs some problems?
Yeah, they're talented. People don't talk about their D-line, but it's one of the best defensive lines in football. They're well coached. Coach Vrabel, I worked with them a little bit at the Pro Bowl and understand the coach that he is. So they're a great, well coached football team, and they have a mentality. They're going to come in and they're going to win. And a lot of times in this league, if you don't have the confidence going in, that's where you kind of lose the game. But whenever you go up against a team that's as confident as you are that they're going to win, it's going to be a battle. And so we have to accept that challenge and find a way to win against a really good football team.
Sounds like last year's game didn't stick well with you.
No, anytime you watch that on film and you see how you played, it wasn't just them beating us. But I mean, we played bad, and they kind of just put it down on us at the end of the day. So for us, we have to come in with a better mentality because we understand that they're ready to go, and they're going to have confidence. So we have to make sure that we have that confidence to back up our play as well.
Patrick, when you looked at all the receivers you had coming in this year, I'm sure you didn't set a timeline when you wanted it to click, but where do you feel like you guys are? I mean, week 7, it seemed like in San Francisco in particular worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I think we've gotten better and better each and every week. I mean, that's all you can expect whenever you go into a season with a lot of new faces. But I think guys understand the offense even more. I'm understanding how they're going to run routes a little differently than when we first got here because they've seen how it's supposed to be ran during the game. And when you're on that same page, that's when our offense really clicks. And so we're going to continue to evolve, continue to get better and better. But I mean, I'm very glad with what the progress has been in that receiving room. I think it'll get even better.
To say nothing of the guys you previously had here, but how much does it help having depth at that position? 2, 3, 4 options being guys you can count on.
Yeah, I think we just have a different variety of guys. I think that's the biggest thing. And whenever you're kind of trying to find that right role for guys, you get to see a lot of different mixtures of personnel sets and different receiving groups out there on the field. So when you have guys that can come off the bench, quote unquote, and be like Justin Watson or Sky Moore that have speed that can still be game breakers, that helps out a ton. And so you never know where it's going to come from because we have a lot of speed guys, but we have physical guys as well. So we can kind of interchange those routes between all of them.
And over bye weeks, you've just kind of learned things as you've done well with bye weeks as much as Andy Reid has over his tenure. Do you do more self-scouting? You try to get away from football for a little bit? What do you feel like works best for you?
Usually for me, I get away for a little bit, and then I come back and try to get back to self-scouting, see what we did well before that and what we can do better. And then I go back to my fundamentals, and I usually get at least one day of work with just my quarterback coach and working on my fundamentals and stuff like that. So I try to make sure I kind of stay on top of all that stuff because we had that little bit of a break, and I want to get away and let my body relax but not get too far away.
You mentioned, just for clarification purposes, you mentioned earlier that Brett came to you during the offseason about Kadarius Toney. So the Chiefs were interested in a potential trade during the offseason?
Yeah, it was during the time when we were kind of bringing all the receivers in. So that was a time where he kind of throwing out different options for different guys. And, I mean, there was a ton of options, and he was going to try to work on. And we were able to get Juju and Marquez, which is obviously a great starting point because we have 2 great receivers that come in to add with McCole. And then you draft a guy like Sky, bring in a guy like Justin Watson. And in Brett Feet's fashion, he didn't settle. He wanted to keep getting more and more talent in that room, and he was able to still, even though it didn't happen in the offseason, bring in Kadarius. So I'm excited to add him to the room because we already have a talented room, and you want to keep adding more and more talent.
They're different players in their careers, but obviously they play the same position. What experience can you take from bringing in Josh Gordon last year and how that went and how that might be applied, or maybe you can do better with Kadarius this time?
Yeah, it's just about getting on the same page at the end of the day. And I mean, our offense is a hard offense to learn. I think that's why you see the receivers getting better and better as the season goes on. But you don't want to overwhelm guys and throw them in there and where they can't function and use their ability to the best of it. But at the same time, you want to give them some chances. So I think Coach Reid does a great job of that. And luckily for us, we have a lot of depth in that receiving room anyway. So it will be able to bring him in and give him as much as you can so he can go out there and be a factor for us on the field.
We'll go last 3, Seren, Pete, and then Matt.
Patrick, I know, and I actually have to follow up as well. But I know in Tahoe, the American Century Championship, Mike Vrabel's been there. Mm-hmm. You guys get a chance to kind of socialize. What are the conversations like? Or do you put a wall between the two of you?
We don't talk much football, but I mean, he's a great man. First off, I think that's why his players play so hard because you can tell he really cares. He's been through it. He played in the NFL. He's won championships, and so I think he's going to get the best out of you as a player. And I think I saw that during the Pro Bowl week as well. And it's someone that I understand why his teams play so hard because the type of person that he is, as well as coach.
And then we talked to Andy. He was kind of talking about Frank, being gone for a couple of games, distraction. We kind of talked about the support system, what role he plays. He's obviously in a situation with his family, kind of a moment of crisis. Who looks out for the head coach? And it's the guy that everyone turns to, right? When he's having a tough time. How have you guys tried to,
Yeah, I mean, we have a great building of coaches, staff, and employees on all different levels of this building, and we all support each other. So, I mean, we're always going to be there for everybody in this building.
You talked about the one-on-one with Nagy. What was the point of emphasis there that you guys were working on?
I did talk. I worked with Nagy on the scouting stuff, but I was talking about my other quarterback coach as far as fundamentals and stuff like that. But that's stuff that me and Nagy work every week. So just trying to while we're gone and I can get away just to hear another voice. Just went back to the guy I was with in the off season. But me and Nagy kind of went back on the scouting of the beginning part of the season and where I could be better at that way. I always work with Jeff Christensen. That's a guy I've worked with for the last 5 years now.
Last two, Matt and Steve.
Patrick, you had a big night down in Lubbock over the weekend. What did that mean to you being inducted into the Ring of Honor?
It was cool. It was a surreal moment. It was even like better than I thought it was going to be. Like it was just getting on the field and seeing your name kind of drop to that banner drops your names on the stadium. I mean, just something that you don't imagine whenever you go into college or pro or anything like that. But to have that moment is something you'll have forever.
Steve, Patrick, baseball question for you. Astros manager Dusty Baker talked about the lack of U.S.-born black players playing, in this year's World Series. As a son of a former pro, you grew up playing baseball. What should be done to get more black kids playing baseball?
I think they've started to kind of help that. Whereas they've done this thing called a breakthrough series, which I actually played in when I was in high school. And it's grown more and more. My dad works with it a little bit. LaTroy Hawkins works with it. My godfather. And they're trying to do their best to get more, like you said, American-born black kids to grow up throughout baseball. And I think you see everybody kind of goes to football because it became such a major mainstream sport. But I mean, when I look back and I watch these games being played, sometimes I wish I was out there playing because it's such a great sport that we all loved, that I loved growing up. And I think as we continue to show it in more neighborhoods, and it's not just basketball and football, I think you'll see some of these great talents come back up and kind of make that statement that we've made in the past.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
So that is what Patrick Mahomes had to say to the media today. You know what else would help baseball and just youth sports in general? That it wouldn't cost $10,000 to play on a good team.
Yeah, no, that is one of that's a platform that and a thing I don't think either of us really get to speak on as much, but I know we're both kind of in the camp of having to pay for youth sports on an astronomical level is one of the worst things that's happened to youth sports.
It's not that I'm saying youth sports should be free. Once again, let's
be intelligent here, but it shouldn't cost a family thousands of dollars to have their kid on a
tens of thousands
specific travel team. That shouldn't be the way we do things.
Yeah.
Youth sports can have some sort of financial commitment to it because things do. That's how things work. But we should make sure it's accessible to everyone, not just those that can afford to shell out tens of thousands of dollars.
Some good news when it comes to what Patrick Mahomes had to say. He didn't realize Kadarius Toney was that big. But also, this is a trade. Eventually, if there's smoke with Brett Veach, there's fire. There was rumor that the Chiefs were interested in Toney before the season started because the Giants were looking to trade him to begin with. Now, they did make the trade. So, just because you hear something from and that involves Brett Veach and doesn't happen, it's over, it's done with. Brett Veach is kind of a guy who's like, I'm going to get my guy. But he's a little bit bigger than what you thought.
Yeah, he's stockier than I think anyone ever really thinks.
So that's a positive when it comes to what Patrick Mahomes had to say to the media today. A lot more to get to coming up in the 2:00 hour. We're going to hear from Kellis Robinette. We'll get to a little K-State chatter. And then the Chiefs offense, does it need to improve? Are we at its peak? We'll get to that coming up in the 2:00 hour here on Sports Voice of Kansas 580 WIBW. final hour of Mic'd Up on this Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Jake LeBon of Fulton Caster with you. We are going to get to plenty of NFL trade deadline talk, plus little Chiefs offensive discussion today on this final hour of Mic'd Up. As always, hit us up on our Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. If you want to interact with us on Twitter, at Sports on 580. If you'd like to watch the show, we are now streaming live on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, search Sports on 580. Very simple, very easy. Hit us up in the comment sections as well. Sports on 580 on YouTube.
You can see that apparently Jake and I had the same idea to wear black shirts today.
Yes. It's very hot in the building today.
It's
very hot.
Your room is toasty. My room is not.
Yeah, my room's very hot.
It's not chilly in
Yes.
here right now,
Main
but it
studio,
is
very hot.
It is cooler in
Yes.
my side of the building.
Yes. We're going to find out if it's cooler about 50 miles away in the Little Apple, Manhattan, Kansas. We are going to head to Manhattan to talk a little K-State. We'll get to the football side of things first with Kellis Robinette of the Wichita Eagle and the Kansas City Star. Follow him on Twitter at Kellis Robinette. Kellis, were you at all close to predicting the score correct on Saturday of 48-0?
No, at least I didn't pick Oklahoma State to win 48-0, but that's about the only thing I got right in that one. I was off by a mile. I did not see Kansas State winning the most lopsided shutout of a top 10 team since 1966. So shame on me for that.
Shame on you for that. What would you think? What would you think was the biggest reason for that performance Saturday?
Well, I think there's a few things. I think obviously number one, Will Howard looked amazing. His Dan Marino, whatever Dan Marino juice he's drinking, he chugged a lot of it before that game because he looked amazing. 296, 4 touchdowns. He's looked great the last 2 games. The defense, I think, came out with something to prove, clearly. And then the third thing is I think that loss to TCU just really hit those guys bad. They had a nasty taste in their mouths, and they were going pedal to the metal against Oklahoma State because when they played TCU, they were up 28-10, couldn't hold on to the lead, watched TCU totally get momentum, swing that game back around on them. That was very interesting. And then this one, similar situation, they lead 28-0 near the end of the first half, and that's a situation where I don't think I've ever seen Chris Klieman say, with a 28-point lead, we got to be aggressive here at the end of the half. We got to try and score. He's always been, let's just kneel on the ball and get out of here. Don't want to make a mistake. In that situation, they go down and score a touchdown. Howard throws the deuce on in the end zone, goes up 35-0. They weren't taking any chances in this game. If they could win 48-0, that's what they were going to do. And I think that's part of the reason why they won so impressively.
Is the byproduct maybe of that performance against TCU maybe going to benefit tenfold if that's what it takes to have the K-State offense from here on out and Chris Klieman to say, look, no lead is safe. Let's go forward. Don't sit on the ball, because that's been his MO. And you brought up a great point last week, Kellis, that's what he did at North Dakota State, because at North Dakota State, their defense was the best in the country every single year. And if they got up 28-10, the game was over. It's not the case in the Big 12. Like, maybe that is a huge benefit for the Wildcats going forward because of that game. I never thought of that. That's a great point.
It really could be a blessing in disguise. Kind of looking back, I've heard some players say, not that they love losing to Tulane, but it sparked a lot of new energy in the offense, and that's what it took to get Adrian Martinez, clicking all cylinders. Do they beat Oklahoma without losing that game? I don't know. Maybe that turned out to be a net positive. It really could be the same deal here. Showed the Wildcats that they need to stay pedal to the metal all the time. And yeah, like we've been saying, that's something we just have not seen from Chris Klieman over the years. He's really more of a, let's build a 14-point lead, grind out the clock, and get out of here. That's kind of always been his MO. So to see them go all out, try to win by the biggest score possible, I think that was a nice change. And obviously we'll have to see how the next couple games go, but for 1 week anyway, it helped them.
All righty. do we have a quarterback situation in Manhattan? Do you go Will Howard? Do you go Adrian Martinez? What do you think's happening right now at the Veneer Complex?
Yeah, it's a great question. They got Adrian Martinez is here for just one more season, so if you're going to use him, you better use him now. But at the same time, you got Will Howard, who ideally they want a red shirt, but he's played better than both of them. He's playing better than anybody else right now. So you really want to send the guy who just had 296 yards and 4 touchdowns back to the bench. I don't know that that's a great strategy. So I mean, shoot, I don't know what they're going to do. If I were them, I'd stick with Will Howard. I think right now he gives them the best chance to win. I think his arm opens up a lot of things in the offense that just weren't there with Adrian Martinez. Yeah, Adrian's the better runner. He does a lot of things with zone reads and the ground game that Will Howard can't match. But you just saw against Oklahoma State, Will Howard's arm and his start to throw the ball downfield totally got those safeties to back off, and then all of a sudden Deuce Vaughn is running for 150 plus. He's not getting hit in the backfield like he was in previous games. So, I mean, it's a delicate situation. You don't really, I mean, I'm sure they don't really want to bench either one of them. I think this week with Adrian still dealing with some injury issues, my guess is we see Will Howard again. And then after that, they really have to make a decision on what they want to do. But for me personally, I would say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep playing Will until his hot hand cools off.
I am normally a guy who hates the 2 quarterback system. I do. But I don't think this would be a traditional 2 quarterback system. I go back to, it was like Florida when they had Chris Leak and Tim Tebow. You can use the quarterback run game to an advantage. And as we know, and Chris Kleiman talks about it, Colin Klein did, Bill Snyder did, when you run the quarterback, you get an extra blocker. You get Deuce Vaughn blocking. He can pick up a guy. It's not a surprise that Adrian Martinez had so much success running the football. I mean, you look at it across college football in the history, running quarterbacks have success. But I think Will Howard is a better thrower of the football from what I've seen the last 2 games. And so I wonder if you can't mix in both of them. It's not, to me, a true, 2 quarterback system, but pick and choose a little bit on, hey, you know what? We can run, because you can't run Will Howard right now. You just can't do it. And they didn't against Oklahoma State, because if you run Will Howard, then he gets hurt, and then you can't risk it because you've got Adrian Martinez dinged up. Jake Rubley cannot play. So they didn't run Will Howard in the game against Oklahoma State. So I wonder if there's a delicate balance that they can use.
I think there is. I even asked Chris Kleiman this week if he's put any thought into platooning them, playing both of them. I'm kind of with you normally. I hate that idea of switching up quarterbacks, because it means that you're just basically, you're making it much, much harder for both of them to get in the rhythm if you're playing both of them at the same time. But these 2 have such a different set of skills. I think it could work. When you want to throw the ball, get Will in there. When you want to run the ball, keep them off balance. Get Adrian in the game. I think they are different enough. You could do it. So I wouldn't rule it out. And they're both good teammates. It's not like, I mean, you've seen Adrian the last couple of weeks. He's been Will's biggest supporter, giving him hugs after the game, giving him advice during the game. I think if it means Kansas State's winning, I think they're both okay with whatever. So this is one situation where if they really wanted to do it, I agree with you. I think they could.
We're talking with Kel Strobanet, does a terrific job covering the K-State Wildcats for the Kansas City Star and the Wichita Eagle here on Mic'd Up. And maybe you can help me out here, Kellis. You're a smart man. K-State was a 1.5-point favorite against Oklahoma State. Many people question that. They are now a 2.5-point underdog to Texas. What am I missing here? Help me out here. Why is K-State an underdog at home against the team that they just clobbered, beat the team that they're playing coming up to Saturday? What am I missing?
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. That surprises me a little bit too, that you got the ranked team at home with all this momentum. They're the underdog. A few things I can say is Texas has owned this series of late. They've won 5 straight.
Mm-hmm.
It really hasn't mattered who is or who the personnel is. Last year we saw Texas beat Kansas State without their starting quarterback, without Bijan Robinson, without a bunch of players on defense. They just lined up in a wildcat formation in a game they didn't care about, and Kansas State did, and still beat them. So I don't know if people think they just have their number. Texas is also coming off a bye in this situation, so sometimes you just look at that and say, well, they're going to be the healthier, more rested team. Maybe they throw a few new wrinkles at them that Kansas State isn't expecting. That's an advantage. And the only other thing I can point to is that Kansas State has been, I'm not saying all the time, but occasionally they have been susceptible against the run this season. That's what really hurt them against TCU. Their running back just flattened them in the second half of that game. I don't know if people look at Robinson and Roschon Johnson and say Texas could run all over Kansas State. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's the quarterback thing. Nobody knows exactly who's going to play. So those are a few reasons why maybe Texas is favored, but I'm with you. I think Kansas State is the team to back right now.
Texas defense has gotten better. I know that. They stopped the run. Is that it? Like, hey, it still's all about stopping the run for Kansas State. If you stop the run, you got a good chance of winning the game. Texas got a pretty decent run defense.
They do. And yeah, you got to be balanced against them. I mean, you saw what Oklahoma State did. They fall behind, come back on Texas. The interesting thing about Texas is that, they've been really good at home this season. They almost beat Alabama there. They've crushed everybody else who's come to play them in Austin. They even went to Dallas and beat Oklahoma on a neutral field. But on the road, they've been bad. They lost to Tech. They lost to Oklahoma State. Steve Sarkisian is actually only 1-6 in true road games since he took over as the Texas coach. So we're just talking about why, Texas is favored. That's another thing that interests me. Why is the team that can't seem to win on the road favored on the road here? I don't know. But yeah, there are multiple ways to attack that Texas defense, and I think Kansas State probably can if they've got a quarterback who's throwing the ball like Will Howard has.
Julius Brents, he looked good, and Udike was out. Like, did they just magically get healthy after that TCU game?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there, but yeah, Felix went from like barely walking to zooming all around the field, and yeah, I guess maybe Chris Klieman came out and said that the team was going to be good to go, everybody healthy for TCU. That clearly wasn't exactly the case. Yeah, a lot of people played, but a lot of people got dinged up too. I think just with another week to rest here, playing at home, I think that made a lot of people feel a little bit more energized. And I don't know what it is about playing in Manhattan that gets this defense revved up, but man, they're a different unit at home. They've played, I think it's 5 games here in Manhattan. 2 of them have been shutouts. They've created 14 turnovers at home in those games, barely letting teams cross midfield. Been a different story on the road. They haven't forced a single turnover, and they've been lit up in some road contests. But man, that Bill Snyder Family Stadium, they're tough.
All righty, let's get to the basketball side of things. Jerome Tang, his debut, at least in front of people at Bramlage last night. Your just initial thoughts on K-State and the basketball team?
Well, I liked what I saw. It's hard to know exactly how good they're going to be because, bless your Ichabods for coming in there and giving us all they had. But they just did not have the time to play with Kansas State. And I thought that was most evident when near at the end of the game when they told Jarrell Colbert to get in there finally as their third big man. He's just swatting every shot that Washburn players put up, almost like it's me versus my 5-year-old in the front driveway here. But I did like what I saw. The things that stuck out to me were Kansas State was bigger, more athletic, and they didn't mind using those advantages to help them. It was refreshing to see them make more than half their layup attempts. It was refreshing to see them make almost all of their dunks. It was refreshing to see them grab a lot of rebounds. Those were things you didn't see a bunch during the Bruce Weber era. And I found it very interesting that at one point late in the first half when what Washburn's coach called for a zone and they went to it, K-State responded with back-to-back dunks just with ease. That's another thing Kansas State over the years has struggled with. So, if they can play well inside, they can play well on offense against zone defense. Those are already two things that'll please the fans. Things I didn't like: 20 turnovers, only 22% shooting from 3-point range. That's not going to beat many teams not named Washburn. But those are kind of my general thoughts.
Tell me if I'm wrong. That looked like purple Baylor. It looked like purple Baylor. Like, their guys are crazy long. Like, even their 3s and 4s, like Keontae Johnson. I know he didn't play a lot, and we found out in the postgame why, because he played a lot in the secret scrimmage, and they're running to manage the team's minutes. This is more of an evaluation period, which is why Colbert got in late. But they're crazy long. Like Naquan Tomlin, 6'10" and long. He tried to shoot the 3. You know, you've got a lot of guys who are just long. Keontae Johnson, Colbert, Giessen, just a lot of long guys. And they crashed it so hard. Like, they just went to the glass like crazy. It looked like there was like 15 hands grabbing basketballs when you were sitting there courtside, which was incredible. And they got out and they ran. Like, anytime that they saw that one of their guys was going to get the board, they were out. I mean, my goodness, it was like a track meet. I loved that part. That's why I thought it looked like purple Baylor. But I worry, dude. You said, I think they don't have a lot of bucket getters. I don't think they got like a scorer or a shooter. I think a lot of it's going to be on offensive glass, transition, just out athleting people, which is what Baylor was before, like, the last couple of years when they started to get some bucket getters, you know, like a Jared Butler or a Teague, or, you know, a Donovan Mitchell, that type of thing. That's the only thing I worry about for K-State. Athletically, they're going to match up with everybody, I think. Do you think they have enough bucket getters?
Well, first I'll say I very much agree with you. They fit the Baylor mold, definitely. And I would say they do remind me of some of those very first Baylor teams that Scott Drew had in Waco, when they had the athletes, had the bodies, had the size to play that, you know, weird 3-2 defense that kind of messed with certain teams, but just didn't necessarily have all the talent in the world to challenge KU and the best teams in the conference. That's kind of where I think Kansas State is right now. They need some shooters. They need some scorers. I did like Keontae Johnson to score, though. I was impressed with what he did. But could use some more shooters. Could use a little bit more finesse in some areas. But yeah, I mean, shoot, I can't remember seeing a Kansas State team that was just had that many, you know, guys you look at. Just, man, these people look like basketball players. And I remember thinking that the very first time I met some of these guys when they got on campus, even just meeting them in street clothes. You meet Naquan Tomlin, he's like a 6'10" guard with you know, arms for days. It's like, wow, you know, this kid, I don't know what his background is. He's got to be somewhat good at basketball. And they got a lot of guys like that. You know, players who maybe at this exact moment aren't finished products, but if they can coach them up for the next few years, maybe they will be. And definitely, they remind me a lot of Baylor, no doubt.
All right, 2 for the road for you, Kellis. Last 2. How's the dad tax going on the Halloween candy?
Pretty good. I actually just scarfed down a mini Milky Way before I got on the air with you here right now. Took like a little Twix and some Reese's Pieces to the game last night. I was munching on them from the media section up a little above where you were on press row. So pretty good. I've not met any resistance. The kids got so much candy, they have no idea when Dad comes in and sneaks away a little bit of it.
He's like, Kellis the spy. I like it. All righty. Lastly, when can you start decorating for Christmas / the holidays? What day? I want day. Like, is it November 1st? Is it December 7th? Is it November 20th? I want a day what you think it is acceptable to decorate for the Christmas holiday season.
Well, this is actually a touchy subject in the Robinette household right now because I kid you not, as soon as we were done with trick-or-treating the other day, my wife said, all right, time to get the Christmas stuff out. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. We've got to at least, you know, give Thanksgiving a little bit of attention here. And I Thanksgiving is maybe my favorite holiday, so I hate that the rest of my family is trying to totally gloss over it to go right to Christmas. I prefer to wait until after Thanksgiving. If it's the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, I won't stop you anymore. At that point, you can go ahead and start putting stuff up. But before that, just seems a little bit too early for me. The only exception I would have is if you're just looking to put up a lot of Christmas lights, exterior illumination on your house, like right now while it's still warm. That's the one thing I will forgive.
Kellis, my man, we are in the same boat. My wife is the same way. Like if she could have 4 Christmas trees up right now, she would. Like we are to a T. Like we are to a T. We are in the same situation. 12:01 a.m. Sweetie, if you want to wake up, do it. But that's a bit more. But I want to see if we're in the same situation. We don't end up winning. We just say, all right, hon, you just do what you want.
I mean, I've successfully kept the tree at bay.
Nice.
I have, and we've never had 4 trees.
We have 3.
So I guess you've had 3 before. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we got 3.
All right. Well, I'm feeling pretty good then. I think the most we've ever had is 2. So.
All righty. Well,
yay me.
You're winning, man. You are winning. Kellis, thank you so much, man. Sorry we took up so much of your time, but we appreciate it, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Talk to you next week.
Kellis is the best, man. Great insight.
Yes.
Kellis is great.
3?
Yeah, we got 1 upstairs, which is the main. Then we got 1 downstairs. And I think, see, my wife is very smart.
That's true.
She knows I'm not a huge, like, I'm not Scrooge, all right? Like, once Thanksgiving is done, Rudolph the Red-Nosed, like, let's roll, man. Okay, let's sing all the stuff. There's nothing better, okay? My son loves Christmas. I'm pretty sure my daughter will. But, like, I'm not Scrooge. Like, let's go full bore after Thanksgiving. But we have 1 upstairs, the normal one. The downstairs Christmas tree is what she calls the Chiefs tree, which she went out and got like 8 or 9 Chiefs ornaments.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's got like red tinsel and red and
okay.
and
So
yellow.
it's a Chiefs themed Christmas tree.
And she's like, I bet Jake will like that because it's the Chiefs, which I do.
Yeah, your wife knows you.
My wife is smart.
Your wife's intelligent.
So we got that one. And then we got a smaller one that, like, one of the things that we do is every year we give each other a Christmas ornament.
Okay.
And so
adorable.
and we put the year on it. you
Yeah.
know? And so we've got a small Christmas tree. It's white.
Okay.
And we put all of those ornaments on
Okay.
that Christmas tree. So like the first ornament I got her was an airplane.
Nice.
So because we met.
Yeah, you guys met at an airport.
At an airport. So that's why we have 3. So it's more like 2 3/4.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. This has been Christmas Talk on November the 2nd. Now I need to go take a shower. Let's get a timeout. We're going to talk about the Chiefs and is their offense, do they need to bring it? Is their offense as good as it needs to be? We'll get to that next. Nobody wants suits up Sunday? Do you think he's active?
Yes. I think so.
So you're going to suit up 6 wide receivers.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. As you can tell, I'm very confident about this answer.
Juju, MVS, Hardman, Sky Moore, Watson,
Tony.
Now, I think he does have a chance if Jody Fortson does not play in the game. Because Fortson did not practice today due to a contusion. I think if he doesn't go, I think you will see Tony perhaps.
Tony was on the practice field today taking kicks. Him and McCole Hardman were back practicing return kicks today.
What kick?
The wording, I believe, from what I saw, let's see if I can track it down here. There's a couple of reporters who took note. I believe the wording was, by what I looked like and could see, I think it was punts.
Matt Derrick, our good friend.
There it is. Matt had it.
Your sight of Kadarius Toney and McCole Hardman catching kicks on a breezy 80-degree fall day from 2 football fields away.
Good work, Matt. But like, watch the angle at which this ball comes and the kind of shape it's making. To me, that looks more punt-like. But Matt's wording was catching kicks, which does not define what type.
I think this is kickoffs. I don't think this is punts.
It might have been. I do not know.
It says here, Sky Moore received the 2 kicks before that. Most of the receivers and a few running backs take part in kick receiving drills during the stretch portion of practice.
Either way, he is practicing some returning things.
Returning things.
You know, important to note. I think there is, I think it's above a 50% chance that Tony is active on Sunday and plays a little bit. Andy Reid already noting that looks like they have a couple plays in the playbook ready to go. You didn't catch that part in his presser today?
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure.
Yeah.
The facial reaction you gave me.
No, but it's intriguing.
No, it is. It's very intriguing. I don't think if he is active on Sunday, he will not probably play an integral role in anything. But I would not be surprised if they already try to get him in and get him going on Sunday. I think if anything, you can get him back as the punt returner immediately. And just I think that's the best and smartest option of your 4 options. Because your 4 options are Kadarius Toney, McCole Hardman, Trent McDuffie, and Sky Moore.
They're not going to use McDuffie because they don't want to put any other undue pressure on that hamstring.
Agree. So I think that's a reason not to use McDuffie. McCole Hardman can usually catch it clean, but has shown a real bad issue of picking lanes and knowing how to attack and really maximizing and not putting the team on the 8 ball in field position. And then, as we said, Sky Moore can't catch him. So
no.
I think if you can make the roster spot work, you make sure you play him.
Well, he easily does if Fortson doesn't play.
No, yes, no, I agree. If Jody doesn't play, it's right there. You make Jody inactive, make Kadarius active. Boom, you're done.
I also think the Lucas, and maybe I'm higher on Lucas Niang than most. I just know that Lucas Niang does have valuable NFL reps, and that helps depth-wise. If Wiley does go down, or if Orlando Brown goes down, do they move Lucas Niang as a backup, keep Joe Thuney where he's at? Now they could shift Thuney out to left tackle and move Allegretti into left guard, but I think this helps out depth-wise for the Chiefs with Lucas Niang. Now, it's not his window is starting now since it's after week 8.
Yeah, his practice window is beginning to open. And My thing on Lucas Niang, I can't pass judgment yet on what I think of him fully as an NFL player because he's missed so much time. Like, it's hard to formulate what you think of Lucas Niang because he hasn't played a lot of NFL football. You know, it's hard to really judge a guy when he just hasn't been on the field. You know, he came in, his rookie season would have been 2020. He opted out due to COVID. 2021 comes, he plays most of the year, but then has injuries and other things that sets him back as well. So it's just, and then this year he hasn't played a single snap of football because of his knee injury. So he's played so little that I still want to see him get a chance to be a right tackle for this team, because I think, you know, there's a reason they drafted him as high as they did with the thoughts they had. So I hope when he's healthy and ready to go, now, do I want him starting over Andrew Wiley? I really don't know, because Wiley has done a serviceable job. You know, he has done good enough work. And I don't know if you want to upset that by just seeing if Niang can be any better. But I would like to see Lucas Niang hopefully get a chance to get back on the field and start logging some reps.
We'll get a timeout. We will dip into the news today. Bill Self, Curtis Townsend suspended 4 games plus more sanctions. We'll get to that here to finish up this edition of Mic'd Up. I can't be the only one who saw the news pop up at like 11 o'clock today and go, Yeah, I definitely thought that KU would self-impose penalties today. Yeah, I totally saw that one coming.
Yeah, it was very surprising when that information came out that was a step that Kansas was taking because they had been so staunchly opposed to any of it. But I think for KU, there's a level to this that they just want this done. Like it's been 5 years that it's been forever for the IARP to make a decision. It's also a reason the IARP is going away once they finish these cases. Like once they wrap up these final 3, there's a reason the IARP is taking a hike so fast is because Lord, this ain't the way. Also because the NCAA realized, we don't get to hand down our punishments and people can get off less than what we want. We can't be having that. So there's definitely a large portion of this, which is KU trying to maybe trigger a faster response by the IARP by going like, hey, look at us. We're trying to do something. Will you come in here and tell us if this is enough? Or what more do you need? We've now given you a baseline. Come on down and give us something to finish this off, and we can just all
move forward.
Go on with our lives.
Yes. Here are the sanctions. 4-game suspension for head coach Bill Self and Curtis Townsend to start this year. Self and Townsend off all campus recruiting activities for 4 months, April through July. That already occurred. So 2 of these are going to be done with here in 2 weeks. A reduction of 4 official visits during the academic year in 23-24. So that'll be coming up next year. The reduction of 3 scholarships in men's basketball to be distributed over the next 3 years. So that's starting the next 3 years. The implementation of a 6-week ban on recruiting communications, a 6-week ban on unofficial visits, and a 13-day reduction in the number of permissible recruiting days during the upcoming recruiting calendar year. And then no official visits to Late Night at the Fog in 2022, which was just a couple days ago. So of these 6, there are 6. Of the 6, 4 of them will be done by November 15th. 4-game suspension, Self recruiting this past year, no official visits, and 3 of them looks like. So the other 3, which would be official visits in 23-24, scholarships, and the recruiting ban. So half of them will have already been done that they will have already taken care of. To me, there are 3 different things that why KU is deciding to do this. And give me the order in which you think is most likely. 1, new administration. This isn't Jeff Long saying we're not going to do anything. Bill Self has said that as well. Is this because it's Travis Goff? Just a new leadership. Number 2, you just won the national title, so you have some good fan base, your fan base is in good faith and they're in happy moods because you just won your 3rd NCAA title. 3, the IARP is not the NCAA. We know if it's the NCAA, you never do this.
Yeah, you never cooperate with the NCAA.
It's not
you
the NCAA.
never cooperate with them.
It's the IARP. Of those 3, how do you rank the most influential? What do you think? Because that's why they're doing the self-imposed stuff when nobody else has really done this.
No, none of the IARP schools definitely have really done. LSU's the one who's done the most. With their Will Wade fallout and all that.
Yeah,
and quite literally their entire team left.
Well, yeah, the reason that all occurred was because they fired him and they postseason ban when they weren't going to make postseason anyway.
Yeah. But no, for the most part, this is some more we've seen out of more schools. I think maybe the most influential to this is the fact that there's a new regime in charge.
Okay.
That this is maybe what Travis Goff, after kind of getting the lay of the land, was like, all right, we need to maybe try to be a little proactive with this. The second on that list, and it's a close second, is the IARP. The IARP has already shown with the Memphis decision that they're not going to be like the NCAA and just cripple your program in its current state. That they're going to give you postseason bans or all these current things. Like they are like the IRP has set their precedent in the Memphis decision, especially when some members of the panel spoke about it, that their goal is to punish those at the higher levels in charge of the bad decisions that were made. Their goal is not to punish players, because players are just there to play basketball. They are just there to be student athletes. They are completely removed from these decision-making processes. Their goal in the IARP is we want to punish those at the top who led to these bad things happening. So I think with that in mind, in a new regime there, I think Travis Goff had the idea, if we give a baseline start to this and showing we're willing to take some accountability for the actions, which is what you do when you give sanctions. You are taking accountability for what happened. How much you are admitting culpable to and all that can be kind of figured out, but you are saying we did something wrong, or why are we punishing ourselves? So I think there's a level to that. I think that's the biggest thing for Travis Goff, is this idea of if we take some accountability, put some self-imposed penalties out there, the IRP can kind of use this as the starting point, and hopefully, given what they also share their precedent of, we're not going to hurt current players. Maybe this will give them a little bit more ability to kind of spearhead and move on and realize. And I think there's also a little of this as well. They're hoping their self-imposed restrictions on scholarships and recruiting are the last that'll affect players. I think what Travis Goff is now going to hope is the IRP, if anything, will just suspend Self and Townsend longer and give them harsher penalties.
I see some people on social media say, see, pays to cheat. Like these penalties are nothing. From the Big O Tires text line, aside from the various best players in the nation, how hard is it for KU basketball to recruit players? I agree with that. I will add to this. Players like to be wooed.
They do. Players
want, because when you talk to Division II players, like I interviewed Kevin Neal today, great player for Washburn. I said, why did you choose Washburn? And he said, I just felt like it was a good fit, and the coaching staff and Coach Watkins, man, they felt like they knew me. Like they knew me, and they showed interest in me. He said it was either Washburn or Fort Hays. He chose Washburn because of the coaching staff, because the coaches were interested in him. They knew him. He said, I had a good relationship with them. That's how you have a relationship. You pick out there, you recruit them. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how's class going? Hey, how's your basketball game? If you're recruiting football, hey, staying involved with them, that is how you do recruiting. So that is something that you have to do. If you just hit up a recruit, yo, how you doing? Doing good? All right, cool. I'll talk to you later. And then Kentucky, Duke, they got them going, treating them a little bit differently. It's a little different. So these recruiting aspects. Now, would this hurt K-State more than KU if they had these situations? 1,000%. Yeah. So I do see where our Big O Tire texter says some of the guys, honestly, Grady Dick from Kansas, went to Sunrise. He was going to go to KU. KU probably didn't have to recruit him very hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, now did they? Yes, but they kind of know, hey, we got an easier one with you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If KU's recruiting a guy and it's KU and a whole bunch of mid-majors, KU has the advantage. So I do think that. I see a lot of people say, hey, yeah, it pays to cheat. This is a slap on the wrist. Because I do. Overall, this is a slap on the wrist.
If this is the be-all, end-all, it is a... But I think that is the biggest thing. And if anyone wants to say a slap on the wrist, I get it. These are light self-imposed sanctions. It's important to remember this is also likely not the end of it. And if it is, I agree. That is a walk in the park
Yeah.
level of penalties, and I will not deny that.
And that's why I'm not ready to say, oh yeah, it pays to cheat.
Because you don't know what the final punishment's going to be.
Exactly. I'll wait till it all finishes out. But, oh, Bill Self got suspended 4 games. Oh, you got 1 scholarship a year taken away. Oh, you couldn't recruit for 4 months. Oh, you don't have 3 visits. It seems like a lot, but in reality, you're not playing 12 scholarship guys. That's not happening. KU probably just fine. Norm Roberts taking over for 4 games, not a huge deal. So that's why I can see where there are people who are very upset about this. This is just the first step in what might end up happening. We'll have to wait and see. Coming up next, we'll finish things off here on Mic'd Up with the Mic Drop. Finishing things up here on Mic'd Up. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Alrighty, Bolton, what do you got?
All I'm going to say is this with KU. This is just the start to a likely larger set of punishments. I understand the idea that it could be a slap on the wrist. They want to see them more. I get it all. I do. But at the end of the day, I just want everyone to just remember it happened a long time ago. The biggest thing is this: don't push for punishments on the players. If you think Bill Self should be banned from basketball for forever, I will respect your right to have that opinion. But just remember, don't support punishments that punish guys who weren't around 5 years ago when this all happened. Punish guys in charge, not dudes just trying to play basketball and go to school.
wait until the final results are, because what if KU gets a postseason ban? What if
They still could.
What if KU has to fire one of their coaches? What if KU gets Bill Self gets suspended for an entire year? Like, wait until the final punishments come out. If you want to say now, this is not enough. Well, it's not, because the IRP hasn't said anything. If you want to get really upset, get upset for the fact that KU will not know its punishment until the end of the season, somewhere maybe in May of 2023, when it occurred in 2017. That's what you should be upset about. We'll talk to you tomorrow at noon. Coming up next is 580 Sports Talk.
Joe Biden's